Anger is a pretty nuanced emotion, and in this video I want to give you some of that nuance. Nature would not have given you the ability to be angry if it wasn't of great value. In a lot of spiritual circles, there's a dismissal of anger as though it's bad, you shouldn't be angry. Right? We've heard stuff like this. The sort of cartoonish, stereotypical idea of meditation is just you're never mad, and if you're mad, then meditation doesn't work. Some silly notion like that. But anger is a complex emotion that actually serves many purposes, and the reason for its existence in your life can be pretty counterintuitive. It can be not really what you think it is. So I want to talk about the direct experience of being angry. Anger is pretty intense, right? Of course, there's levels of intensity, and anger tends to be, when you're really angry, of course, very intense. And typically, what happens when we are extremely angry is we start just projecting it outwards because we are not in acceptance with what is happening inside of us. We are not able to simply be with the pure sensations of this, right? I want to really talk about the very direct experience. I don't want to keep this very conceptual, at least this point for now. I don't want to keep this very conceptual. I want you to really grasp what I'm pointing to. When anger arises, there's a flowing energy in your body, right? An emotion. We can feel it, and there's a bunch of subtle details, nuances. There's a little bit of a flow to it, a lot of a flow to it, really. And there's just changing sensations. And we usually just avoid the sensations. We don't remain grounded in them. We don't remain just feeling them. And when we experience anger and we're not really connected to ourselves, right? We're not in that felt sense of connection. That's when anger begins to project outwards, right? Especially in relation to other people. We just basically lose that felt sense of connection to us. Most people don't really have much of that anyway, so it's more so that they don't really have it, and then they didn't really lose it if they don't have it. But for a lot of you who are more experienced with meditation, right, it's like you kind of lose that felt sense of connection to yourself, and then the emotion gets externalized because your attention swaps from being, on yourself to the external, and then, right, very instinctually, you just start pushing it outwards. So how do you really deal with the experience of being angry? So when anger arises, right, assuming it's a genuine anger, which I'll be making the distinction between genuine anger and not genuine anger later on, but right now assuming that it's genuine anger, you want to just give it your full attention. Instead of avoiding it, you want to be able to have attention inside of your own body and locate where the feeling is. And you want to notice that on some level, you're probably resisting it. You might be resisting it on the mental level. You're probably resisting it on an emotional level. You're resisting it on a physiological level, right? Your mind in the form of this shouldn't be happening or this is so stupid. Your physiological level in terms of your body's tense, and you're like physiologically trying to push it. Basically tension and holding patterns in your body. And emotionally in the form of not just feeling the sensations. And it's this combination of phenomena that leads you to basically project it outwards, right? So you want to let go of your beliefs about what should and shouldn't be happening. You want to just ground yourself in what's happening in the present experience and just bring acceptance to it. Give anger your full attention and really just feel into what's going on. Feel it as fully and mindfully as you can, and just bring acceptance to it, right? When you begin to accept it, there's like a bit of space that you've created. When you're not accepting it, you're fighting it and you're struggling against it, you're tense. You're actually just manipulating parts of yourself to avoid feeling it, and it doesn't work. And it creates a lot more suffering. It's really, by definition, you're struggling now against yourself. So when you bring acceptance to it, there's more space and the emotion can flow more. When you relax your body tension, the emotion can move within you, it can move freely, and then it can just kind of release. It's actually quite simple. It's just that our wiring and our unconscious patterns, and 95% of your life is controlled by unconscious patterns, is just against this simple pattern. The pattern that you've established over and over and over again is one of repression, avoidance, not feeling it, not being mindful, not being grounded, wanting to escape the present moment, wanting to avoid it, not wanting to feel anger, judging your anger, being ashamed of when you're angry, listening to spiritual BS that tells you that you shouldn't get angry, or that anger is somehow unnatural, or you're doing something wrong if you experience anger in your life. There's a pretty interesting Zen quote. It's by a Zen master. I forgot exactly where I heard it from, but it's along the lines of this: as long as I can get angry, I am healthy. And I assume he was like an older man, probably, getting close to when he's going to pass away. And I just find that to be, a perfect quote in relation to anger. So you want to actually really be fully feeling it, surrender your tension, surrender the beliefs you have about this shouldn't be happening because it's happening and there's, the belief is BS. Just giving it your full attention and feeling it as mindfully as you can, relaxing your body tension. You need to actually befriend your body. You have to learn how to get more grounded in it. Actually just hold the tension in there and just be feeling it and relax in your body rather than it always being tense, you're agitated, you're stressed. Your nervous system's always on overload. You're never able to just sit still and be present. And then when something happens, you just start reacting and it's like a disaster. Next, I want to make another distinction between aggression versus anger. So this is the next point. Aggression is an unhealthy manifestation of anger. This is when you act on anger, when it kind of just overpowers you and starts really controlling you. Right? This manifests, of course, as violence. Right? So there's a distinction between aggression and anger, and even the expression of anger and the feeling itself. Because aggression, we can say, is an expression of anger. And there's healthier ways to express anger and unhealthier ways to express anger. But really, there's no way around point number one. The reason why I listed point number one first is because that's the fundamentals. Without that, you're gonna do nothing to actually really come into contact with yourself and create deep emotional well-being. You will not really know how to handle anger properly at all. It's not really just a matter of expressing anger and then it's gone, and then it's like the pattern is still inside of you. The trigger points are still there. So point number one is how to actually begin to heal those trigger points. Expressing anger to hold your ground is a much different way to express anger than, of course, aggression. Let's say someone oversteps a boundary, right, and you experience some frustration with that, and you just let them know in a firm way, you can't be doing that, right? So anger can become a way that you defend yourself and just create strong boundaries. It's very useful for creating a very strong sense of self, which is useful for survival. Like I said, nature wouldn't have given you the ability to be extremely pissed off if it didn't have tremendous amounts of survival value, if it wasn't very valuable. So expressing anger in the healthier way, basically to hold your ground, to set boundaries, doesn't involve lashing out, it doesn't involve attacking the person, it just involves really point number one, right? It involves an integration of point number one, really feeling it, grounding into your body, and not disassociating from yourself, being connected to yourself, and then just letting the person know, just an open expression of it, just to bring it into awareness and absolutely nothing more. Not to get power, not to get status, not to attack them, anything like that. Just to bring it to awareness, just as simple as that. Next, I want to talk about a form of anger that isn't genuine anger. It's actually ingenuine anger. It's actually an anger that covers other emotions. So there's certain emotions in human experience that are heavier and more dense and lower vibration than other emotions. And we can use anger to avoid sinking into those emotions. Those emotions are sadness, shame, grief, guilt, powerlessness, feeling helpless, and attempting to gain power and control. So anger can be used basically to, feel like you're in control, feel like you're gaining power and control. Of course, and avoiding sadness, shame, grief, guilt, things like this. So it's funny, you can observe this in a lot of social dynamics. When one person starts to feel shame, right, or even potentially embarrassed or things like this, they actually start to get mad. You can probably notice this in yourself. It's just, you can start to experience a form of shame, and anger very conveniently comes in, and it's completely unconscious. It's something that you're doing, you're just not aware of it. You can become aware of it and move into the feeling of shame directly, but your anger, right, it's just you've built this up so many times. It's kind of like how you're breathing right now, but you aren't really aware of your breathing. It just does it automatically. But you can become aware of your breathing and breathe deeper into your gut rather than shallow and into your upper chest. A nice deep, full breath into your gut, and it's a very regulating, thing to do. Same thing with this kind of anger that I'm talking about. It kind of just comes in, covers up shame, guilt, grief, sadness, things like this. And it's something you're doing, you're just not actually aware of it. And it's just a habit that your body is acting out. But when you apply awareness to your body, basically when you integrate the first point, like I said, I talked about it enough, just replay the beginning of the video. When you integrate that first point, this is how you rewire your body, rewire your nervous system to actually be able to not go insane when you get angry. Be able to just handle anger, be able to regulate anger. This is how you rewire yourself to simply allow anger to move. This is how you rewire yourself to just allow sadness or grief, shame to move and come up, whatever the emotion is. Right? Just feeling it, being grounded in it, giving it your full attention, feeling the flux and flow of energy. See, when you are using anger to cover up sadness or shame or grief or guilt, you need to be honest with yourself about how this is happening, that this is actually what you're doing, that you're using it to gain a sense of power so that you don't feel helpless to those even lower emotions. Right? And by mastering the first point, like I said, this is how you actually begin to notice these dynamics inside of you, rewire your nervous system in your body so that it's not just using anger to cover up sadness and grief and all that stuff, and then move into even those lower emotions directly and actually process them. So in this case, in the case of ingenuine anger, right? In the case of just anger in like this sort of sneakier kind of way that I'm talking about, where it's just kind of covering stuff up, you need to move into the underlying emotions of sadness, unworthiness, grief, feeling out of control, like you can't gain control, feeling helpless. You have to move into those feelings and feel them directly and just surrender to them. And you just have to trust that you're supported by this present experience, right? We avoid them because deep down we're so afraid of them, but there's really nothing to be afraid of. You're perfectly safe to just really sit there and just feel. You're not really gonna die, or maybe your ego will, who knows? I'm just messing around. You're completely safe to just sit and feel the flux and flow of energy inside of you and to just really allow it to move in the most organic way possible. This is how you create real emotional health inside of you. This is how you actually master your emotions, right? Emotional mastery doesn't involve manipulating emotions and just getting your hands in there and twisting them and just controlling them. It involves allowing them to move in the most natural and organic way while being grounded in one's own being. Really being in the body, feeling, this kind of stuff. That's it for this video. You can apply for one-to-one coaching. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. Take it easy.